There are 10 different myth cloths in the game. Some of them are useful, some of them are not. I am going to talk through all of them and show how I would use the ones that I consider useful. So here we go, let's bring up the myth cloth page. So the first one on the list is Taurus. Increases allies' speed by 11% for the first 2 rounds. This, I think, is not very useful. There are better myth cloths than this, so unless you desperately need to get in the first turn for some reason, there's no reason to use this. Capricorn here reduces 1 to 2 enemies' rage by 50 when a battle starts, lowering its damage received by 9% for the first 2 rounds. This is really a PvP myth cloth. Since Aries is a better choice for PvP, this is another one that's not really worth using in my opinion. Let's move on to Pisces. Now this one could potentially be useful against bosses. Grants 50 rage to 1 to 2 allies when a battle starts, increasing their damage received by 9% for the first 2 rounds. Now you do have to be a bit careful. What I'm reading there is that you take more damage for the first 2 rounds, but gaining a rage boost can get you one of the bigger skills. Let's equip Pisces and test this out on one of the Time Vortex bosses. There we go, and try this out. So here we have a stage 2 boss. You want the rage boost to go on your main hero, which is why my other heroes are off. Then you can get the bigger skill going on the second turn like this. And I think that's the main use for this myth cloth. It's not the best one I have ever seen, but it's not bad. You can see in this example though, it was able to get me that bigger skill and do reasonable damage. I'll try this once more, just so you can see it in action again. So turn 1, that skill there, Furious Strike, then you saw again, straight onto 1000 Blades. Biggest hit I have. I know it doesn't do too much damage on the stage 2 Time Vortex bosses, but that's the basic use for this myth cloth anyway. So it's not a bad one for using on the bosses. The next one is Leo. This is one I often use. Deals 30% attack plus 5000 damage to all enemies when a battle starts, with chance to stun the targets for 1 round. So I think the most useful game types to use this in are Goddess Guardian and Magic Battlefield. So what I'll do here is test it out in Magic Battlefield. So here is Magic Battlefield on normal difficulty. I think this is the best difficulty to show Leo in action. It's basically just click on enemy and win the battle instantly. You need pretty decent stats to be able to do this though here, but in Goddess Guardian it's a lot easier as the enemies are weaker. Even if you don't kill the enemies instantly here though, you will weaken them, and that should make the raid dungeon a little bit easier. There we go, we're almost done anyway. I'll do the one more battle, there we go. And that shows quite nicely what Leo can do. Let's move on to the next one, and that's Scorpio. Now Scorpio is basically a variant of Leo. If I bring it up here, deals 60% attack plus 7500 damage to 1 to 3 enemies when a battle starts, reducing their healing effect and health restore by 50% for 2 rounds. Now because it doesn't hit all enemies, it's not going to be as effective as something like Leo. It is a bit stronger though if I bring up Leo again. You can see the attack is lower, plus the damage is lower as well. It's not one I would recommend using, mainly because we have Leo, which is guaranteed to hit all of the enemies, and Draco that does more damage to the one enemy. If you can't kill with Leo though, this may be worth a try. Let's move on to Aries. Aries is one of the best myth cloths in the game. Grants a 9% health shield for all allies for 2 rounds when a battle starts. Deals 120% attack plus 2000 damage to the attacker when the shield is broken. This is the main cloth used in PvP as the shield is really useful. This is also incredibly useful against any bosses that do a significant amount of damage. A few good examples are the cross-server boss, the end boss of Genesis Maze, and the harder Time Vortex bosses. I'm going to use this on the end boss of Genesis Maze. Without this cloth I can't complete it, so it is really useful there. I have skipped ahead to the end boss. So with Aries, you can see on the very first turn it breaks the shield, then does all that damage to the boss, so it is really effective. I need Reflective Shield though to win this battle. This is still a very difficult boss. It's going pretty well though. I don't always win this boss, but I can defeat it after a few attempts normally. It's going to be pretty close. I should win on this turn. There we go, boss defeated. But that gives you an idea for how to use Aries anyway. Let's move on to Sagittarius. Here it is. Increases allies' damage dealt by 9.5% for the first 2 rounds. That's not bad, could be useful against bosses. It's going to be very difficult to show this in action though. This Myth Cloth could potentially be useful in any situation where you need a bit of extra damage. Just bear in mind the attack boost is only for 2 rounds. It's a decent cloth, but I do think there are better ones, which is why I don't normally use this one. So let's bring up Andromeda. This one works the same as Sagittarius, except it's for defense instead. It's also not one I ever use, since you can just use the Aries shield instead if you need a bit of extra protection. Now let's move on to Draco. This is my second favourite Myth Cloth in the game. Deals 230% attack plus 12,500 damage to a front enemy when a battle starts. Now this is really useful against any weaker bosses. A good example is the lower element beasts. If you equip this, you can defeat the boss in 1 turn if you are strong enough. Let's try this on a weaker Time Vortex boss. This is the Behemoth in stage 0, one of the easiest bosses here. Now pay attention, that's the damage that Draco did, then afterwards I attacked the boss and finished it off. I am going to show this again as it was really quick. Here's the Draco damage. Then boss defeated. So there we go, that's Draco in action doing good damage. The final Myth Cloth is Libra. That's on the bottom on the second page. Let's go across to it and bring it up so you can all see. This one revives a dead ally and recovers 30% health within the first 2 rounds of battle. This is not one I normally use, but if you are with a party in a multiplayer dungeon and someone dies really quickly, then it could be really useful to have this one equipped. Not an easy one I can show in action though, unfortunately. For those curious to see what my stats look like, here we go. You can see here pretty much what my stats and equipment currently looks like. The main stats I am trying to work on are attack, crit, pierce and hit. I think those are the most important ones if you are trying to do decent damage. If you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing is always very much appreciated. If you have any questions, please do let me know in the comments. There's another video on the screen, plus you can also subscribe from here if you want to do so. And thanks for watching.